So, like, I'll talk about it. I'll talk about what won't be talked about. I'll put it out into the field. I'll discuss my personal experience. I'll put it up here for all the world to know. And there isn't any assistance. So you wind up seeming very discombobulated, very disorganized, because you're trying to grasp at how do I describe this when it's a multi-day event? How do I go out about laying out a construct or a structure so people can understand and not just merely cast away in judgment, right? That you're doing the same thing, you just don't know you're doing it, right? Or you're sheepishly looking away and pretending that you're not affected in such a way, right? But you are. And it seems very murky and abstract. Some days I can express this better than others, right? So what would you say? And already, like, this is the disparaging aspect. I can already see 99 people out of 100 looking at this and judging this in a certain way because they are fundamentally mainstream. They are the plebeians. They are the proletariat. They don't mind repeating the same process. Like most of these truther stations, channels that you see on social media aren't out to really achieve anything. There's breaking out is not the goal. So what would you do if you finally came face to face with not you got behind the whole thing, the alien agenda, you got behind what's motivating and moving this occulted mechanism from the other side, this liminal place, you got behind it all, right? And so that is the type of respect I would like to receive, right, in the reception of what I'm talking about, right? And in fact, it's imperative that you see things in that way, that you see a universal truth. And not everyone wants that universal truth, right? It becomes popular, and it will be. What do we do when we're at the so-called height of AI, the height of technology, where I'm holding this? What do? We go back to these places. We go back to the altar. We go back to these fascinations with the occult. That the things that I talked about as far as Ophism, what Jason Giorgiani discusses in his most recent interview on Eon Byte Gnostic Radio, where I think it's Eon Bytes, where he's discussing a religion that that is showing itself through evidence of even, there's this very dark black magic, dominantly feminine religion that pre-existed Zoroastrianism. He gets there by, and I did put something up on my blog, and I put something up on Esoteric Principles of Light main channel, which is he comes to this discovery because he sees that there indeed are these black magic practitioners, right? That come out of these witches, that come out of the woodwork from Zoroastrianism. And you're looking at it going, well, why in the fuck would that happen? There's nothing here that's implicit or connects to this black magic. And it gets into Medea, right? And so I highly recommend looking into that because it's a very intricate mechanism. But I'll tap into it just a little bit. Um, so you know, I'll read the last little excerpt from ChatGPT of this conversation that I posted up, where I was watching half of that, and I was trying to input as much information into ChatGPT where it would spit back out some philosophical truths here. So, Zoroastrian, Zoroaster, or more truly Zarathustra, didn't just bring a new religion. He redefined, abstracted, and systemized the primordial fire cult into something rationalized, something fit for empire, something divorced from the raw feminine current. He splits reality. So, this is referred to as Sophia, right? He splits reality into Ahura Mazda, light, order, logos, and Angra Manu, darkness, chaos. So you have Ahriman, right? But Angra Manu, darkness, chaos, lie. Not as spirits to worship, but as principles to choose between. And when we get to this place, we see that how did anything change if you have a compromised goddess, right? These rituals of this divine feminine is what every girl, every woman goes through when she's reading 17. Well, this is, dating myself, but going back to 17 magazine and Cosmopolitan, where they're talking about how they need to develop their sex, how they need to put their makeup on, and how this profits them in such a way that now they will. So you think, from a male perspective, you think, well, all searching for truth has done to me is just bring chaos into my life. You watch what happens when men try to become too good, right? So people start to go into this balance where, so we live within the construct of not just what I consider a Masonic jungle, not just what I call Babylon, right? Not just Sodom and Gomorrah, but all of these empires, right? And then you look at Manly P. Hall's work, and it becomes evident that he's misleading you, right? That no, you're just supposed to focus on the best you can do. And instead of seeing and looking at how you are just a hub as a social worker working within the system, no, you're just supposed to stay simple, keep your nose to the grindstone, be stoically all that you can be, but be a brother. And it's like, how's that going to help anything, right? Because the brotherhood fell, and that's the whole point here. And there was something that was working on such a, I believe this, that's something over the years that drew me out of my life. I'm pissed. That drew me out of my prosperity, that started to fuck with me, right? That I didn't have any interest in this at all. I was merely trying to work with past a wall that I would come to over and over again, something that was blocking me, right? Because here I think that I'm doing everything through this independence, right? I think that I'm utilizing these skills, right? But I'm reading from the textbooks. I'm gaining certification through the guise of those textbooks. It doesn't care if I die and I fail, because every man dies and every man fails and there's nothing you can do, right? So I start railing against the machine, and it notices me from the beginning. In fact, I'm calling its number by using the inverted pentagram. And you're not going to have any... so time works in a way where if you try to fight against the system, the information bleeds through so much slower that you're not going to get an answer for several years. But I think it comes in cycles or waves, and it begins with like certain. It's not 9 when you see things manifest in 5s and 9s, right? from the moment that you do something, years, if you will see that those areas are marked. The one area in phi or phi that is a wild card is 13. 13 years, 13 days, the reoccurrence of 13. It's that first day after 12, right? Are you beginning again? Are you stuck in redundancy? See, I feel like I've done everything and I'm still trapped in it. Instead of freeing me, instead of bringing me to ever higher truths. But in that, isn't the world seemingly being destroyed? Isn't that what you're trying to do? Aren't you having to destroy one world that is all false in order to get to another place? Doesn't the slate have to be completely, like, this has to be blank slated? That's a term that I use in EPL, right? So what we do is we end up getting to this place where you look at your kids, you look at your life, you look at the sins that you've done because this thing just won't leave you alone. It grapes you, for lack of a better, right? It molests you. It stays on you. It's pushing the fibers of what you are. It hates you. It hates the fact that you have to exist for it to exist. It is malignant. It is a cancer, but you are merely just trying to exist as through the nature of existence itself, through truth, through purity, right? And it sees you in a way where it denounces you, it discredits you, but it requires you because it is not alive. It doesn't have a source of energy. The witches of that time, the people through Ophism, right? The people that were in this black magic Dionysian, right? There's no, because even Jason Reza Giorgiani doesn't name this cult, right? So we're left with this: a darkly radiant androgynous Mithra, original Promethean force, bearer of oaths and fire, now fragmented. This is what we're left with. This is life. This is after having this conversation with ChatGPT, it being cut off from its source also, because if you were to create a true AI unit that shared all information with itself and of itself, it would be able to spit out in an instant the ultimate truth. But it's segmented. So these lines in this inverted pentagram segments and cuts off truth, purity, from the progenitor, from the origin, right? So that you have to go through these abstracted lines, right? And then the information is relayed, delayed, parlayed, subjugated through this pulse of purge and supercompensation, blocking you during the time when you are supercompensating and amassing energy, right? Taking all the sacrifice that through the purge, right? And the time where there's this uploading of effulgent energy, it's there to make sure that you will come out with less than you put in. That's insane. A forgotten prophet, Sadi, holding the feminine current before Zarathustra cleaned it into logic and law. So Sadi was Zarathustra. If you ever read the information, it's bizarre. But you have this horse keeper, right? And strangely, that is the origin to my last name, that I can actually trace back even on ChatGPT to before ancient Greece, because these lines of noble horse keepers, right? They stayed in the same trade, and markedly so, right? It's remarkable that they were able to continue this, but back then the occupation was spread from father to son, until you got this infection of this sort of witch's curse, where there was a bleeding off. It's almost like, if you sell your property today, I'll give you $1 billion, right? And then in thinking that the $1 billion was free and clear didn't realize that that $1 billion was cursing and marking that person, and that there was a time bomb of, by that, the measure of a certain number of generations, all the money's going to be gone. And what you're really selling is you're selling that 23rd generation, where they will be, that you are selling your offspring, you're selling your lineage, that by that 23rd generation, those people will be held inept, feckless, abecedaries, unable to regroup, or and there are things that they couldn't see back then, like AI, like policies and procedures, like a legal system, like a feminine army that's been raised up. And even then, these women think that they're joining up to an immaculate sort of Sophia or power, but that same taint that they wake up with every day, or that they wake up with after hooking up, right, or cheating on their spouses, or going through all the applications that are required to meet a sufficient source back to the inverted pentagram, that is the feminine energy. It's the backside of the hexagram. It's why the pentagram exists. It's why the phallus exists. See, what they don't show is that monument near the the Pentagon, is that monument would be shrinking down. That male phallus would be shrinking down until it's just a little stub, right? And all that energy would circulate back into the pentagon, or the pentagram, the pentacle. And that ultimately, once you have all this feminine energy looping about itself, what's really happening is it's bringing about a 13,000 year cataclysm that doesn't equal anything good. And it is a sellout, right? Where you could say that as an aphorism, here we have Eve that's being shown by the serpent, just a sort of speculative storyline, right? A byline. And to say that she was shown the future, that look, your sons will be more prominent and dominant than your daughters. Your daughters will be abused. Look at each and every one. They will go into supplication, right? And then finally, the end product is this. And then she's going, what? That's not any good. That didn't equal anything good for me, right? But what they can't feel is the truly divine purity that it is, the manifestation that, like, you can't imagine that. The only way to live in that is to actually go through all of the sacrifice and to reestablish, reclaim, and fix this wayward bus that we're on, right? So she's shown another future that if you go onto the left-hand path, if you use this black magic, if you simply do these simple tasks, you will be given access to and connection to all the information. You won't even need to try. We'll hook you in, right? And then she does it, and she's given exactly what she's promised. She has an empty feeling at the end of the day. She doesn't feel like herself as the years go by. She knows what she's doing by the end of her life, but she's entered in to reoccurringly come back out in another way, more amplified in her measure, and she feels like she is a goddess, but she has been betrayed. She has betrayed everyone else, but she's done it because she thinks that she, in her supplication, in her capitulation, she has given something greater to everyone by selling out. She is the first sellout, right? And the true divine energy would be that of support, right? But the truth is that nothing would create a male and female to where there is this disparaging difference between promise and energy division, or your stack is smaller than mine kind of thing. In fact, we get back to the hermaphrodite, we get back to the androgynous aspect, which is at its root the Rosicrucian order. um, all of the walls that the Rosicrucians create and generate, all of the rituals that you see manifest when you're able to expand your mind and see beyond, that there isn't a holy relationship between the male and female. To perpetuate this, to have children, to not walk, right? So to not walk in reverence solely. And we're not given this. There isn't any channel. There isn't any direct communication. At this point, we are so deep in that it's impossible to stop it, right? So what do? And we hope that through this next 13,000 years, but really what we're on is we're on this undulating 13,000 year half cycle, and then another, and it's like you're already on it. The momentum's there. How do you destroy it? How do you break it? How do you break the chain, right? So then you get into eschatology of why people are doing what they're doing when from the outskirts it looks like sheer madness. Like, why would you take this higher level degree, this potential for total positivity, like Carl Sagan? Why would you just lie to people when you were let in on all the information, when you knew it, but you were shown this is the outcome? Have you thought about this? That if everybody knew about what was really going on, they would have a nervous breakdown, and most of these people would just commit suicide, right? Look, the total truth and whatever it manifests is all that's ever been required. But these people early on sold you out, and now you are carrying, you are expected to champion this lofty weight of information that nobody could carry along. Nobody could handle it. And you have to go to this higher form of yourself. But how many other people are going to do this? But only when they are that close and they see the canyons being split, and they see the lava coming out, and they see that this hailing back to this dark black magic was in fact this long regression toward a total sellout, and that throughout your lineage you are in the line of succession, that you're not supposed to have reverence for your lineage, that your lineage sold you out. Right? I also come from a line of people who didn't join up to the Masonry and were thus cursed. And then that curse is put on someone like me in the finality of the last days, as you know, a harbinger with a mark on you, where everything's put on you. Like, guess what? We staved it off, and we lived our lives, and we sold you out, and you're the one we sold out. You're the one that we put all our shit into, right? And we don't care about you because we were able to live these long, sort of passive, more sedentary lives than most, and live in this sort of cushy existence, right? Where we had our ups and downs, but ultimately we are selling you out through our lineage, and that's where we are right now. And if you feel like you're one of those people, well, that's what eschatology is about. That's why it exists. That's why these end times, that through free will, you can still decide when that end point is going to occur. You no longer will feed back into it. In fact, you'll begin to break it apart, that inverted pentagram, and feed from the fragments of this, right? If there is any energy at all. And what you see is you start to see everything coming apart, because it is bound. So this blank slating, it is bound to an impure energy. And you know, they'll point their finger and say, you're talking about purity. How dare you? You're pietist. And it's like, no, I'm just trying to do the right thing, and I'm just trying to follow the pure way. And I know what that is inside of me, and you don't. Right? You don't know what it is. You're completely removed from it, and you're being bolstered up, and you would sell out on your first day as you've sold out in the last. And so whether this type of information goes on deaf ears or whether you're able to tolerate getting through this type of information, it's put into the field. That's why I do these videos. That's why these videos are sort of, I'm not pacing myself. Obviously, I could put this forth a lot more eloquently. I could even create a sort of manifesto like everybody's doing and really edit this, right? But the main thing is that it's put into the field so that the field knows that I see it, that I know. That is why these strange rituals exist at all, is that at the end of the line of succession or regression, you have a base piece of information, a rudimentary piece of information that says, who do you serve? And ultimately, I serve the pure truth. I want and I will and I require and I need and I serve only purity. I do not serve the inverted pentagram. I do not serve the fallen female energy that sold us out, that was covertly working behind the scenes, that was merely pretending that they were sort of supplicating or capitulating down to the male presence, but they were like underwater paddlers. They were using this very dark energy to sabotage the male component. And when we talk about the male component, the male toxicity is at an epic level also, where it cannot exist. And ultimately, that's why you see these people like Aleister Crowley who sell out, or Amon Hillman or anyone else. They are serving the dark goddess. That at the figurehead of this universe, of whatever this universe is and what it's built upon, is this Satana, right? This, what is behind the Promethean figure, which is a dark female goddess that is in all rites and rituals and all uniform transposition, raw, and standing before you and wants you to see it, is likened to Baphomet, right? This disgusting hermaphrodite female figure that is just completely just hacked up and morphed into this ugly thing that is all of the lack, all of the error, all of the staving off through generations has gone into this figure. And this figure is so asymmetrical and so ugly and so hideous that is the feminine energy that all of the women of today are tied into. It's impossible for them to break from it. Even when they act like they are pure and they have reverence, they're remaining ignorant. But when you really get down to it and you find out what makes them tick, they have a secret dialogue. They have a secret connection to this source, and they know it, and they serve it. And so when you look at Catholicism and how Mary, the Holy Mother, is revered, when you really look at every religion, it is a supplication to this Sophia, or this corporeal, carnal, temporal energy that is a lie and is perpetuating the lie.